What's up everybody, Jared here with carbuzz.com, and today I am bringing you a full review of the 2023 Hyundai Ioniq 6. You might be familiar with the Hyundai Ioniq 5 that launched a few years ago already. The Ioniq 6 is going to be a sedan model that is based on the same e-GMP all-electric architecture as the Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6 and the Genesis GV60. So there are a lot of cars based on this architecture, but this is going to be the first sedan model that's available in the US that you've been able to buy on this platform. So we're going to start with a full walk around of the Ioniq 6, which borrows a lot of inspiration from the Hyundai Prophecy concept, which I thought was absolutely gorgeous. I don't think that the production Ioniq 6 looks quite as gorgeous, but it is still a really unique, really cool design. You've got a very low drag coefficient on this car of just 0.21. You've got this very slick, slippery front end here. It looks reminiscent of the Sonata, except it doesn't really have as much of a face because obviously there is no grille. When you do start up the vehicle, this portion right here and this portion over here will open up to add a little bit of cooling. You also have some of your radar sensors and things like that in here, as well as this new flat Hyundai badge. Even the badge is more flat for aerodynamics. That is going to extend to future Hyundai models as well. Now the headlights have their parametric pixels in here. That is an Ioniq theme that we first saw on the Ioniq 5. I do really like that as well. And if you're wondering about this color, it's called Gravity Gold. I believe it is only available on the limited trim. It's like $1,000 optional extra. It is a matte paint. It looks a little bit more silver than gold to my eye, although I guess it kind of just depends on the color and the sunlight you're in. I think it is one of the Ioniq 6's better colors. They did have a bunch of different options for us to look at, and I think that the lighter colors really do this car more justice than the darker colors. Now, the Ioniq 6 that we're driving is that limited trim that I mentioned. It is riding on 20-inch wheels, which these are the same wheels that you're going to get on both the SEL and the limited trims. The base SE model is going to ride on more aerodynamically efficient 18-inch wheels, which is really going to help your range. So if you want the best range, you're going to have to go ahead and get the base model. I guarantee you there is going to be a forum cropping up where people who bought the top range model but want the more aerodynamic wheels are probably going to do a trade swap. So if you have the base car and you want bigger wheels and don't care about range, I bet you there will be somebody on the forums who will trade you. Again, for the aerodynamics, they've even made the door handles flush. When you walk up to it, is going to pop out via a motor. When you lock it, they're going to go ahead and close. Again, that is just to keep this car as aerodynamic as possible. The shape of the car is very slick, you can see, and then it droops down towards the back. Hyundai has cited a lot of different design influences for this car, but honestly, I just see a lot of Porsche and even maybe a lot of Saab in the design, especially with this sort of rear whale tail spoiler. I think it looks super cool, especially at night, because you have this brake light that kind of shines up here at the top, and then it kind of curves so you can see it from this angle as well, and then you have your secondary spoiler here as well. We also have this long connected taillight bar with all of these parametric pixels as part of the, digital parametric design of this car. Overall, I think that it is a really, really cool design. I like looking at it a lot more than I like looking at the Tesla Model 3. And the wheelbase is about 116 inches, so it's a little bit smaller than the Ioniq 5, but it is, I think, about 5 inches longer than a Tesla Model 3, and we're gonna see how that's going to benefit interior space. And now, before we check out the interior, I just wanna mention the key fob, because this is much different than what we've seen on any previous Hyundai vehicles. It looks very futuristic, very egg-shaped. You have your normal lock, unlock, remote start, and alarm function, and you also have your smart park assist, which is only going to be available on this top limited trim. So we're going to go ahead and lock it, and then I'm going to hold the start button, We're going to see that it's going to start up the climate control. And now I can use these buttons to drive the car forward and backwards out of a parking spot. This is not the first time that we've seen this on a Hyundai or Kia vehicle, but it is something really cool that maybe you can show your friends and they'll think is cool. And I do think that the key fob is rather unique. I'm not sure if they're going to be putting this on more Hyundai vehicles or not, but it looks really cool. It even gives you an opportunity to see those flaps open as it needs more cooling while the car is on. Now, the interior space of the Ioniq 6 is great, but there's got to be some compromise somewhere, and that is going to be in the trunk. We have this large opening, and the trunk looks like it would be a lot larger than it actually is, but the opening is not that big. It's definitely not that tall. It is relatively deep, though, but you're only going to get about 11.6 cubic feet of space back here. You can fold the seats by pulling these two tabs, but it is a lot smaller than what you're going to get in a Tesla Model 3. It's smaller than what you're going to get in the Polestar 2. So that is one area where the Ioniq 6 does not shine. However, you do get this power trunk lid on all trim levels, which is a nice addition. And when you pop the hood, you also get a very small storage area right here that's going to give you about another half of cubic foot. I'm not really sure what you're going to put in there. You're not even going to be able to fit a pizza box. Like, I don't even know if your charger's really going to fit in there. I think Hyundai just wanted to say that they had a front storage area, but I really can't see much use for this. And now, because Hyundai was able to stretch out the wheelbase so much on this car, you get a really nicely sized back seat with a ton of legroom. So this is going to be quite a nice vehicle for Ubering. You can see I have so much space sitting behind myself. I could even probably cross my legs behind here. Now the problem is that the headroom is not as excellent because of that sloping roof line. I'm only about 5'8", and if I sit up properly, I am almost touching the roof here. My drive partner on this event, who's a little bit taller, he is a little bit less comfortable in this position. So that's something to note. Legroom is fantastic. Headroom, not so much in the rear. We do at least have air vents with USB-Cs here as well, with a little bit of storage. We do not have a panoramic roof. I believe it would be too difficult due to the shape of the roof for them to do a panoramic, but we do have this nice wider glass roof here, and we do have lots of storage here on the door as well. You could put your phone right here. There's also another little phone pocket right here and a decent little bottle holder all in the door. And now let's check out the interior of the Ioniq 6, where we have the black interior option. I much prefer the gray. It's just a lighter, airier feel in this cabin. So if I was going to opt for this car, I'd probably get the lighter interior. The base SE trim is going to come in cloth. This is a leatherette, no real animal materials here. We again have our parametric pixels mirrored from the outside here on the seat. These are a heated and ventilated power seat, as we have the fully loaded limited trim. We also have a decent amount of space on the door, and a lot of design went into this. I love these cool streaks on the door here. We've got this nice grab area as well, our big Bose speaker grill because we have the limited trim, and a decently sized storage area down here. Now let's go ahead and step on properly into the interior. Shut the door. Now we have our start button here. This is not one of those EVs that you get into and it will just fire up on its own. But what we do have standard on all Ioniq 6 trim levels are going to be these large 12-inch displays. We've got a 12.3-inch touchscreen here and about the same here for our gauge cluster. There's a couple of different ways to customize this. We have like the light theme. I believe there's also a dark theme as well available on here. The steering wheel is rather cool. It is only a 2-spoke unit. Pretty standard stuff here. I like how we have the 4 dots here. That's actually Morse code for H, for Hyundai. We've got our sort of weird shifter, the same one that we found in the Ioniq 5. You're going to go ahead and twist it forward for drive, twist it backwards for reverse, which is going to pull up our 360-degree camera. Again, part of the limited package. This is really good resolution, better than a lot of luxury cars. And then you just push P to park as well. We also have our drive mode selector here on the steering wheel, as it is in the Ioniq 5. And they've added something here. These dots actually light up. So you see when you go into sport mode, it's going to glow red. It's going to glow green for eco, and then it's going to flash white for normal mode. And we'll talk a little bit more about all of those different driving modes as we get out. You'll notice that below we do have lots of physical buttons, including a quick button that's going to take us to our seat controls for heated and ventilated seats that we have here on this limited model. So I do like that there are plenty of physical controls down here. Hyundai has not deleted those and opted to go all for a touchscreen. We've got our wireless charging pad up here, as well as a USB port. We've got our cup holders behind here to free up space on the doors to give you a little bit more leg room on this side. All of the door window controls are here, so you have your lock, unlock, auto hold, and all of your window controls for all 4 windows here. We've got a little bit of a storage area behind there with our USB-C ports in this little cubby area. And as you can see, we have a lot of storage because there is no physical transmission underneath the console. So this is a little bit different than how it is in the Ioniq 5, where you have the sliding center console. I think I maybe like that a little bit better, but this is really cool as well. And then you can see here on the dash, we have kind of this winglet design. This is where the screens would live, because in other markets, you don't get conventional side mirrors, you get cameras instead, but unfortunately in the US, those are not currently legal. All right, so let's get the new Ioniq 6 out on the road, and honestly, this is a vehicle that I think I've been the most excited to drive this year because of how much I loved the Ioniq 5. I think that the Ioniq 5 is my favorite, #1 most recommended EV, so let's see if they've managed to capture that magic here in the Ioniq 6. So let's start with the powertrain options. You can get a 53 kilowatt hour standard range battery, but only on the base model with rear wheel drive. That's going to get you 149 horsepower, so pretty low on that horsepower number. It's going to get you 240 miles of range. 0 to 62 is going to take about 9 seconds, so that's definitely not the speedy model. Upgrading to the 77.4 kilowatt hour extended range is going to get you significantly more power and significantly more range as well. So power is going to jump from 149 to 225 horsepower, and your range is going to jump from 240 to 361 miles in the maximum configuration, which is more than what you're going to be able to do in any Tesla Model 3 that is currently being sold. Now, if you upgrade to the extended range battery pack, you can also now get all-wheel drive for an additional $3,500. That's going to add a second motor on the front axle. So whereas the 225 horsepower version takes about 7.4 seconds to hit 62 miles an hour, the all-wheel drive version produces a whopping 320 horsepower, with 0 to 60 taking just 5.1 seconds. In fact, since we are driving a dual motor extended range battery, why don't we test that out right now? I'm going to go ahead and take it out of eco mode, put it into sport mode, and let's just mash the throttle. Woohoo! Gets off the line really quick. It's definitely a little quicker than the Ioniq 5 because this is a sleeker, lower, lighter vehicle, but it has the same amount of power from that dual motor electric setup. Now, in terms of range, I mentioned that 361 miles is going to be your maximum. If you opt for all-wheel drive on the SE trim, which gets you the smaller 18-inch wheels, you're going to get 316 miles of range. That's 316 instead of 361 if you get the all-wheel drive. So a significant range penalty if you want the extra power and the added all-wheel drive. Now, on the SEL and the limited trims, they are the same because they both have the same 20-inch wheels. Your range is going to be cut down to 305 miles if you get the rear-wheel drive version, 270 if you get all-wheel drive. And we do have a pretty fun road here, so I can talk about how the Ioniq 6 drives. This definitely isn't a sports car, but with 320 horsepower on tap, and remember, all of that is available instantly. You can have a lot of fun with this car. You just mash the throttle and you get really good acceleration. The brake pedal isn't especially filled with feel, but the steering is quite accurate on center. It does get a little bit heavier in sport mode as well. The ride is quite comfortable even on these 20-inch wheels. You definitely feel the road. I'd like to drive one of these cars with the 18-inch wheels to see if it's any more comfortable, but on this curvy road here, I am having a decent amount of fun here. Honestly, I've driven the Ioniq 5 and the EV6 in both their all-wheel drive and their rear-wheel drive versions, and I do think that even though they have less power, I think that the rear-wheel drive versions are a little bit more fun on a road like this. You don't have as much weight over the front axle, you can get them to slide a little bit more, but I think this is going to be the best one of the bunch because the EV6 and the Ioniq 5 are technically crossovers, and this is a sedan that's a little bit lower to the ground. I am having a little bit more fun here in the Ioniq 6. I do wish this seat went a little bit lower though, because I do kind of feel like I'm sitting on top of the car rather than in it. And the great part about this being on Hyundai's e-GMP platform is going to be the charging architecture. You get 800 volt charging. There are a lot of EVs that are just coming out now that don't have this, which means that Hyundai and Kia are just so far ahead of the game, and Genesis as well. Hyundai says that you'll be able to charge at a 235 kilowatt peak on a 350 kilowatt charger, meaning you'll get to 80% charge in just 18 minutes. And they have increased the charging speed at home. So if you're on a level 2 charger at home, you can charge it up to 10.9 kilowatts, meaning you'll get for a full battery in a little over 7 hours. All right, so that was the 2023 Hyundai Ioniq 6 sedan. Pricing is going to start at $41,600 for the standard range SE with rear-wheel drive, although that model is only going to be available this summer. So the early models that you are going to be able to get all are going to have the big battery. And honestly, for $41,600, it's not a huge cost upgrade to go to the big battery. And unless you really just want the cheapest Ioniq 6, I probably recommend at least stepping up to the long range model. Now, for comparison, the base standard range Tesla Model 3 right now is just under $43,000. So this is a little cheaper, but it does not qualify for the federal tax credit because it is not built in North America. Now, the one that I think most people are going to at least opt for is the SE rear-wheel drive long range for $45,500. Like I said, only about $4,000, not even quite $4,000 more than the small battery one. That's going to get you a lot more power, and it's going to get you a lot more range. If you want to add all-wheel drive to any of the trims besides the base model, it's going to be $3,500 extra. So you're looking at about $49,000 for the SE. The SEL is going to get you more standard equipment for $47,700, $51,200 if you want the all-wheel drive, which remember also gives you a lot more power. And then the top limited model that we've been looking at here is going to be $52,600, or if you want all-wheel drive, $56,100. So this is definitely not a cheap way to get into a Hyundai product, but as you saw in the video, it is more premium. It drives really well. It looks really cool, and there is really a lot to love about this car, including its 800 volt charging architecture. The problem is that at the current moment, the Tesla Model 3 is so cheap for what you get the way that Tesla is selling it, including the Model 3 Performance, which you could probably get for about the same money as this all-wheel drive limited Ioniq 6, and it qualifies for the tax credit. So I'm not 100% sure if Hyundai has done enough to draw people away from the Tesla Model 3. But if you just don't want a Tesla, or you're looking for something fresher that's a little bit more unique, I think that the Ioniq 6 is an excellent car. Let me know in the comments, would you buy the Hyundai Ioniq 6 over the Tesla Model 3, or would you buy something else entirely? As always, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. And if you want to read my full review of the Hyundai Ioniq 6, be sure to check out carbuzz.com. I'll see you next time.